with the draft happening this past weekend, I had to bring Turning Point Podcast. Check him out every Wednesday and Friday. My man, Mr. Jake Rongholt. Jake, good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening, Eric. How you doing? I'm never better right now. How about you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for taking this time to jump on here with me. I want to go over the Green Bay Packers draft and definitely get your thoughts and analysis. Love the background, by the way.
Thank you.
Jake, there were a lot of questions after round one. And, we did the draft show together, and you seemed to be in a small funk after the Jordan Love pick. So let me ask you first and foremost, how are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling great, honestly. I've had a couple of conversations with some Packer connections, and they've pretty much said the same thing. You're coming out of this pretty level-headed, and that's how I feel right now with this. I thought that the Packers had a terrific day 3, honestly. And when I got to hear about what Brian Gutekunst said about some of the receivers that were going past the 3rd round, I started to get that optimism, because if you got your general manager in Brian Gutekunst telling the media that he believed that the receivers after the 3rd round were not even going to make the Packers, that right there made me think, you know what? Because it kind of felt like to me, Eric, they took every mock draft in America, took it into a big paper shredder, and threw it in there. They did not listen to anyone on this except for Gutekunst, LaFleur, and their new director of player operations, which is Milt Hendrickson, that came from the Baltimore Ravens, and is also a former Baltimore scout. So they know what it takes to try and build up a team like that with those 3 guys. So I have some optimism. I'm skeptical as well, and I'm just feeling both sides right now.
As your show says, you're looking at both sides of the story with Turning Point
Always.
Podcast. So, Jake, let's move into, like you said, day 3. And day 3, as a lot of people say, that is where you really get your standout guys, those guys who are going to have those lengthy careers in the NFL. So from rounds 4 through 7, just give me 1 or 2 names who you think is going to be that kind of factor with the Packers moving forward.
The one that shocked me the most was Jon Runyan Jr. I was blown away that Jon Runyan Jr. was not even thought about until the 6th round. I don't know how the Green Bay Packers let that guy drop in, because if you go back to the game tape between the Michigan Wolverines and the Ohio State Buckeyes, there was only one right tackle out there that could be able to contain Chase Young, and that was Jon Runyan Jr. You're going back to the days when his father used to have man-to-man fights with Michael Strahan, and he always was able to contain him. He always won at least about 60% of those battles against Strahan. And that's one thing that I wanted to see out of the Packers, is that they got to understand that Bulaga is off to the Chargers for a reason, but Rick Wagner was only signed to a 2-year deal, so he's not long-term thinking. So what they are thinking about is trying to build up for the future with that. They also went and got center Jake Hansen out of Oregon. Those are 2 very good schools that know how to build good offensive line. If you take a look at it, Michael Apati went to the University of Oregon, and he's had a great career in the NFL, even though he's in his twilight years. And I just liked how different they were. The one that I felt like was the biggest sleeper, because I have been looking for somebody that makes me feel like there's somebody far better out there than Dean Lowry at the defensive end spot. That was Jonathan Garvin, who played that left spot on the defensive line, and he had 5 sacks with the University of Miami. And not only that, if he just gets a little bit of coaching, that guy could be in that 4th rotational player kind of aspect of this defense, because one of the things that the Packers of today now want to do is they want to make Mike Pettin feel comfortable. They want to bring in guys that believe that Mike Pettin can work with. And Garvin is a Pettin guy, because he likes guys that could be able to crash to that left side. They tried to give opportunities to Dean Lowry, and he just wasn't able to do well with it. So they need somebody that's going to be able to come in there, help that out. 6'5", 240 pounds. Watch this game film. Floored. Loved the way this kid plays. What he just needs to do is, he has a good swim, a good rip move, good speed off the snap, just a little bit on a delay, a little bit. And kind of his hand coverage just needs some work as well. But overall, I thought day 3 for the Packers, it felt like that move really worked out well for LaFleur and Gutekunst.
So give me your overall grade, and then I got one last question I want to ask you before I get you out of here.
Well, one of the things that really annoyed me was the grades. They looked at the first and the second pick and they threw it out the door. Honestly, I liked the Josiah DeGuerra move. That's a Kyle Juszczyk kind of guy in the making. They went and got a guard, a center, and an offensive lineman, a versatile, and all of them are versatile except for Hanson, who could play that center spot because Corey Linsley is going to, it's going to come up again with that AC Fredder kind of had a between Fredder, Linsley, and they took Linsley, but he's been injured lately, so they got to build for that future. Honestly, the grade I'm going to give the Packers, it's not an A, it's not a B. I'm going to give them a C plus because I liked how I just liked the gamble aspect that they did with Jordan Love. People are forgetting about what happened to Jordan Love. He had Matt Wells, who was actually one of the top coaches in the Mountain West, who just picked up and left and went to Texas Tech, took his offensive coordinator, David Yost, took his defensive coordinator as well. So all he is stuck with is Gary Anderson. And I'm talking about a guy who was not very good for Wisconsin, who was kind of a wimp, honestly, to me. And that was I'm just going to flat out say he was a wimp to me.
Fair enough.
But that's one thing that's going to that was a big problem for Jordan Love because he's coming off that 32 touchdown, 8 interception year. They were averaging 47.5 points per game in that game. And this year they are only averaging 29. So that's a big drop off for a quarterback like that. And then I love the A.J. Dillon move. That was the move where I basically said that they want to look at the 49ers and say, okay, you got Raheem Mostert. Would you like to meet A.J. Dillon? Would you like to meet Aaron Jones? That's going to be playing some receiver now. They're going to be using a lot more fly patterns with him. So overall, and like I said, I'm going to give him a C plus, and that's how I feel like because I am skeptical, but I am optimistic at the same time because I feel like the Packers really did a good job in day 3.
All right, one last question, and then I'm going to get you out of here, and we're going to transition over to basketball. Please tell me you watched episodes 3 and 4 last night.
Every single minute, baby.
Okay. So I got to get your thoughts on it, man, because there was so much there. The one highlight for me was the fact that I know we're not supposed to hold grudges and people move on, but the fact that Michael Jordan, 30-some-odd years later, is still holding a grudge against the Pistons and Isaiah Thomas, that to me made me feel good. Like, okay, Jordan understands that there's a certain way of doing things, and when you don't, he is never going to let you forget it. And that I could at least respect and appreciate. But let me get your thoughts.
That's what made the NBA so great in the 80s and the 90s because they were looking for that rivalry, that Celtics-Lakers. They were going into their twilight years because the Pistons took down the Celtics. They took down the Lakers. And now it was down to the Bulls. And Michael Jordan even said, I'm going to beat the Pistons. So what does he do? He packs on 15 pounds of muscle, hits that gym really hard, and they go out and they don't just beat them. They pulverize them and sweep them right out of the conference. And that is what you have to do. But one of the things that Michael said, and I agree with him because I want that hatred. That's what I grew up on as a Bulls fan. I wanted that because when I witnessed when I was 5 years old, watching Isaiah Thomas do this little move and walk away without shaking their hands, I sat back and said, they lost to one of the greatest players right there. And I loved it. I love that Michael still has a grudge. He should have a grudge. He's the GOAT for crying out loud. And if he believes that, so be it.
Yeah, and we clearly understand now why, even more so than before, why Isaiah Thomas was not a part of the Olympic All-Star Dream Team. Because here's the thing. Bird didn't like Isaiah. Magic didn't like Isaiah. The GOAT didn't like Isaiah. Guess what?
Yes,
you're not playing with us. You can stay at home. We'll take Christian Laettner, a virtual, college kid who had just moved into the NBA, if you will, and got his opportunity. So, Jake,
another thing is, Eric, can you tell me who was coaching that dream team?
Oh, man, you're going to put me on the spot here. Oh,
you're going to be shocked. You're going to be shocked.
Who?
Chuck Daly.
Thank you. I knew there was something and it just did not resonate with me. But hey, man, always a pleasure. Jake Rongholt, Turning Point Podcast. Make sure you check him out on Wednesdays and Fridays. He does movie reviews. He does sports analysis. This man does it all. He is much like a lot of these athletes in the draft, he is a versatile, skilled Swiss Army knife. And that's one of the reasons why I love this brother. Everybody, your man, Eric Wilson, Sports Arena. Jake, I'll talk to you soon, man. Thank you.
Take it easy, brother.